Hello everyone, my name is Natalie Ledwell and this is The Inspiration Show. Today on the show, my special guest is going to be sharing an extremely inspiring story of how she some serious trials and tribulations in her life and how now she's actually helping to empower women to step into their warrior. So can you please join me in welcoming my guest, Bonita Lehmann. How are you, Bonita?
I'm well, thank you, Natalie. How are you?
I am awesome today, and I'm awesome because I'm going to get to speak to you, and I'm really excited about actually sharing your story here through the show, because I know that there are several components that I know that a lot of people will be able to relate to in their own personal journey. But the fact that you've been able to turn this around, you've done a complete 180, and now really empowering women is just an amazing thing. So,
Thank you.
so why don't we start with, where it all began and how you got to where you are now?
Well, it all started with I was a new mother and, inexperienced, firstborn. She was 18 months old and she almost died before she was finally diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I had her in my arms and she was in a coma and I went rushing into emergencies. So from that moment on, my life was thrust into this world of needles, insulin, injections. She's type 1 diabetes. She'll never grow out of it. And I went into survival mode. I really did. And I was so busy trying to save her and save my family from all the heartache and the stress and trauma that I really just absorbed all of that and took it in myself. And for almost 15 years, I was so busy saving her that I forgot to save me. And one morning, I woke up and it was a dark, dreary January morning, like it is in northern Canada here. And I couldn't move, and I felt like I was drowning. I felt like I was suffocating. And I heard this voice, and call it an angel or what you will, but she saved me that morning, that voice. And that morning I pulled myself up out of bed and decided I needed to make a change. I had let my life go. I wasn't doing healthy things. I wasn't being active. I had put on a lot of weight. I was just really unhappy, and I looked at myself in the mirror that morning, and I didn't recognize the woman that I had become. This puffy, sad, lonely face, and that's not who I wanted to be. And it was almost like in a blink of an eye, I finally saw myself for where I really was that morning. And I decided to start with my health and wellness, and I started to go to the gym and eat properly and work out, with purpose and diligently. And so I dropped from a size 18 to a size 10, and that was about 8 years ago. And I just turned my life around, but it started with that, getting my health back, and health is the first wealth. So as I saw myself get strong in the mirror, I feel like I got strong from the outside in. And I heard that warrior voice, that warrior woman was talking to me instead of the worry woman who I used to be, because I used to worry about everybody except myself. I would worry about my daughter Samantha and whether she was eating her snack and whether she had a high blood sugar, etc., or worry about my family and so forth. So I finally started to put myself first, and not in a selfish way, but in a good way, so I was able to have the resources to help my family and help Samantha, thrive and survive. So I got a lot of coping mechanisms along the way and learned a lot about myself, and I like to say I'm still an onion peeling away the layers. And then so now finally my daughter Samantha, she's a successful fourth-year university student. I have another daughter as well, Alexandria, who's 18. But I just realized when I started to give back to the community that I had a lot to share to families dealing with chronic illness and women struggling to hear that warrior voice, because we all have the worry voice. And we can decide whether it's the worry voice that we listen to or if it's the warrior voice, and we can just, warrior through any challenge that we have in life. So I've been reaching out to community groups and the diabetes environment here, and the Diabetes Society here, and really giving back and helping out with workshops, inspirational speaking, and of course with the book that I wrote about my journey to where I am today.
Yeah. It's interesting how you talk about your coping mechanisms and how this is like an ongoing journey. Like I also have been through an incredible year this year, and I've been working on myself a lot. Obviously that was spurred on by the separation of me and my husband. But it was like a whole self-discovery, and I also had realized that I had picked up quite a few coping mechanisms along the way. And when we do that, I think we kind of isolate ourselves. And so, what I'd really love to do, if you're open to it, is maybe talk about some of the coping mechanisms that you had adopted that you were able to work through. Because I think the more that we can talk about it, the more that other women can go, you know what, oh my God, that's me as well. And so we don't suffer in shame and in silence, and we can actually, either work with you or get your book or find out more about how you did that. So what were some of the big coping mechanisms that you realized was really sabotaging your success?
Well, the number one was just listening to the wrong voice and not believing in myself and not being accountable. And I call it the ABCs, sort of accountability, belief, and then commitment, and then community. Those are the three things. But where it really started for me was to be accountable for what I was doing, because I kept brushing it off and making excuses, and that worry was says, oh, that's okay, do it tomorrow. Well, tomorrow never came. So I really, that morning when I heard that warrior voice, she was pushing me to be accountable. And then I started to realize that I was responsible for where I was in my life. And being accountable and taking responsibility was where things changed and started to turn for me. And it's a daily process. Even today, I still have to be conscious of what voice I listen to. And then through the belief in myself, because I started to see that I was in control and things were moving my way, and I was feeling better and sleeping better and looking better as well. And then, of course, the commitment to continue on this path of betterment, and then embracing community, because I had pushed everybody away. I had created this barrier, this wall, because I too was isolating myself, because I didn't want to admit to anyone that my marriage was on the rocks and I wasn't doing well. I was severely unhappy, and just that my life was a sad, lonely life. So I created a wall so I didn't have to tell anybody. It was my surviving, but then I broke through like a warrior woman that I've become, and realized, slowly but surely, you have to have your friends, you have to have your family, you have to bring people into your life, and that creates just the foundation and the wall of support. And yeah, it's quite miraculous how it turned out, but it was day to day, and I just, I had my head down and I was just trudging through the stuff of life, but I knew I couldn't go back. I would have died, withered and died. So it was that voice that was pushing me, and everybody around me encouraging me, and that inner belief that I could do it, that I was doing it. And my daughter was okay. I didn't have to save her every day like I thought I had to, because I was just feeling so guilty about her illness and the way her life is. But I mean, she doesn't blame me or anything. It was me who was making myself feel guilty. So it's that voice that you listen to. And like I said, it's still today. I still have to consciously and make a specific point of listening to the right voice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I was totally the same, and my big coping mechanism that I was able to release this year, because I closed down emotionally, and I just put up this facade like everything's okay, everything's fine on the outside, but underneath it's just like, they are so emotionally closed down. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the smartest things I did this year, and I'm glad that you brought this up, because I think it's really important, because for me, I used to think that being vulnerable was being weak. And I didn't want to let anyone know that I wasn't strong. But of course, this first year, being independent and being on my own, I was very purposeful about the people I surrounded myself with, and really made sure that I had a really good, strong core group of friends who were able to hold that space for me, they were able to support me in a way that was really conducive to my healing. So that's what you did as well. Like, tell me a little bit about, how you were able to culture those friendships in your life.
I had a very good best friend. She's always been beside me, and she knew that I was struggling. She was the one that I confided in. But she, it was one friend, and she encouraged me to get out. And when I was starting to work out at the gym, I would see all these healthy, happy people around me, And then I just started to go up and talk to them, like, I see that you're, doing this fitness routine, or I see you at spin class, or you're working out with kettlebells. One of my favorite things to work out with is the kettlebell. And I just started to actually get out and talk to people and overcome my shyness, and realize that if I don't open my world and explore, it's going to stay small and little. So, and then I would join different groups. I would join a spin class, or join a kettlebell class, and I was even so brave enough to become a certified kettlebell instructor, even though it was just my own personal passion that I wanted to go. But I really pushed myself, and being an introvert, it's, again, really consciously have to do it. You have to put yourself out there and go to events in the community and embrace new ideas. And you may not think it's for you at the time, but go try it and check it out. And once you start, it becomes easier. It's not as hard as it used to be, for me anyways. So it's just that starting in those small little steps, going out to a book reading at your local book store, or going to a new group just to see what it's all about, and just opening your mind to new ideas and what's possible for you.
Absolutely. I know when I moved to LA, I joined a couple of meetup groups, just so I could and some other different people as well. So, so I know that you've published a book this year. So tell me a little bit about the book and what your motivation was behind writing it.
Well, the book is called Saving Her, Saving Me, and On My Way to Something Magnificent. And it starts with where Samantha go to hospital and in emergency, and where she almost died. That's actually the second time she almost died in her life, but you'll have to read the book to find out about the first. But yeah, it just, again, a few years ago, I was just doing some soul searching, and just I wanted an enriching, engaging life experience. And everybody that I talked to either would say, "Wow, I used to know you when you were really heavy and large, and you look so great now. What did you do?" So I would start to tell them, and I started to write a blog about health and fitness, and then I started to reach out to the diabetes community and give back to the community that helped me along the way with Samantha and the hospital and so forth. And I realized there were a lot of moms and dads and families still struggling with exactly what I went through. And I realized, Bonita, there's a story that you have to share, and you have to let these families and mothers know that they're not alone. And then you also have to share the really cool things that you learned along the way. That's 20 years of dealing with diabetes and injections, and she has an insulin pump today, thankfully. But I did a lot of really cool things that I share with families, and I go, wow, you know what, I'm going to go home and try that. So I realized that I can change how somebody thinks and perceives their situation at home in dealing with a chronic illness, and have some tools for them to take home and use, and really easy things that I did on a day-to-day basis. So therefore, I thought, Bonita, you have to just put it in a book, all the story that started 20 years ago. And, unfortunately, my marriage didn't make it, but that's okay. He's very happy, and I'm very happy now, too. It's just one of those things. But a lot of the journey was important to tell, and I had this story swimming around in my mind, and I just started to write about 2.5, almost 3 years ago, started to write. And the story slowly came out until just, later this year in November, that it came out and had some really great reviews, and really some inspirational things happened to me along the way. So the story had to be told, as difficult as it was for me to write many times. But it had to be told, and I can see the reason why now with just the response that I've been getting.
Yeah, it's awesome. The reason I really wanted to have you here on the show is because I know that there are many people that are watching the show who have gone through some kind of challenge, let's call it a challenge, in their life. And if they have it in them to be able to share that experience or share that story, they could really help a lot of people, and that's exactly what you've stepped up and done this year. So I really commend you for that, Bonita. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your book. So if people want to connect with you and maybe purchase the book and find out more about you, where can we send them?
Well, my website is called www.dreambig-liveamazing.com.
Beautiful. And we can see that there on your video.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
thanks again, Bonita. It's been a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you, Natalie.
Awesome. Now, guys, I encourage you to share this video. You can do that by clicking the Facebook and the Twitter share buttons on this page. Make sure you download the app if you haven't done so already so you can watch the shows on the go. And also make sure that you leave your email in the box on this page because I would love to send you the Manifest Masters video e-course. It's actually valued at $87 and I'd love to send it to you for free. So until next time, remember to live large, choose courageously, and love without limits. We'll see you soon.